Undercover CEO goes for an interview in his own company and could not believe what he hears from the HR. "Sir, this job isn't for people like you. You should have at least tried to look presentable." The words sliced through the room like a knife. The man they were mocking was the CEO, and what he did next left everyone speechless. It was a windy Monday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, the kind where the air bites your face and the sky hangs low like it's carrying someone's sadness. The streets were slick with frozen rain, and the warmth of a building, any building, felt like shelter from a world that had no time for the struggling. Through the sliding doors of Harmony Haven Nursing Home, a man walked in, dripping slightly from the cold. His faded flannel shirt, jeans stained from years of labor, and scuffed work boots told a story of survival. His old baseball cap, pulled low, shadowed the lines on his tired face. His beard was rough. His hands bore calluses like badges of decades-long war with life. That man was Lucas Rivera, visionary, self-made CEO. But today he was just another applicant, just another man hoping to earn a paycheck. He wasn't here to inspect the facility. He wasn't here to sign papers or shake hands. He was here to apply for a janitorial job, undercover. He sat down slowly in the small, overly perfumed lobby where the heater buzzed too loud, and the receptionist didn't even glance up from her phone. Lucas looked around the room. 3 candidates were already seated. To his left sat Megan, 28, bundled in a slightly oversized coat clearly bought from a thrift store. Her boots were worn at the heels and her fingers peeked through gloves that had seen too many winters. But her smile, warm. She turned to Lucas and offered, "Cold out there, huh?" He gave a nod, grateful for the kindness. "Colder than I expected," he replied, rubbing his hands together. "I'm Megan," she said, holding out her hand without judgment. "Single mom, just trying to make it, you know?" Lucas smiled softly. Lucas, just trying to make it too. She reached into her purse, pulled out a small blueberry muffin, slightly crushed, tore it in half and offered it to him. "Breakfast?" she said, as though sharing was the most normal thing in the world. Lucas hesitated and then accepted. "Thank you," he said, genuinely moved. Across the room, perched like he owned the place, was Travis, 24. Designer trench coat, expensive-looking watch, hair slicked back like he was on his way to a corporate board meeting, not a janitor interview. He looked up from his phone just long enough to raise an eyebrow at Lucas. "Didn't know we were hiring from the homeless shelter," he muttered to no one in particular, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Lucas didn't respond. He didn't need to. Travis chuckled. "You're not gonna make it past reception, old man. But hey, props for showing up." Megan shot Travis a glare. "You don't have to be rude." Travis shrugged. "I'm just being real. This is a job, not a charity. They're looking for someone who represents the brand, not someone who looks like they just came out of a soup kitchen." Lucas stayed quiet, but the knot in his chest tightened. Not for himself, but for every kind soul who had ever been dismissed for the way they looked. The receptionist, a young woman with a stiff bun and expensive nails, barely looked up. She rolled her eyes at Lucas's boots, then clicked her pen pointedly. "Sign in, sir," she said, like the word itself was hard to say. Lucas scribbled his fake last name, trying not to notice the way her nose wrinkled when he got close. The lobby was silent for a moment. Only the buzz of the heater and the tapping of Travis designer shoes echoed in the room. A commercial for Harmony Haven played softly on the TV mounted on the wall. At Harmony Haven, we believe everyone deserves care, dignity, and a second chance. Lucas looked up at the screen, then at the people in the room, and he wondered, had they forgotten the message, or had they never believed it to begin with? Megan was called in first. She walked in timidly, clutching her worn handbag like a life vest. Her coat was 2 seasons old, sleeves slightly frayed. She offered a small, nervous smile as she sat down, hands trembling in her lap. Karen barely looked up from her clipboard. She clicked her pen, glanced at the resume, then offered a tight-lipped smirk. "So, you've been unemployed?" Megan nodded slowly. "Yes, ma'am, for the past year. My mom had late-stage dementia. I was her full-time caregiver until she passed away 2 months ago." Her voice cracked at the end, but she composed herself quickly. I'm ready to work now. I really want to do something that matters. Karen tilted her head, feigning interest, then gave a hollow smile, the kind that never reached her eyes. That's nice. We'll let you know. Megan nodded again, quietly. She stood, eyes dim but polite, and left the room. Karen scribbled something on the paper. Too emotional. Attachment issues. Next up was Travis. He burst through the door like he was entering a game show stage, chewing gum, wearing sunglasses indoors. He slumped into the chair without asking, legs spread, arms over the backrest. All right, let's make this quick. I don't need this job, he said, grinning. Just figured it's easy money. Wiping floors, cleaning up old people. No big deal. Beats fast food. Karen leaned back in her chair, amused. Honestly, you're sharp. You've got the right look. Confident. Travis smirked. Yeah, I know. They laughed together, like old friends or worse, co-conspirators. Karen circled his name. Then came Lucas. He entered quietly, almost unnoticed. 52, Latin American, a worn flannel shirt, slight limp in his left leg. His jeans were faded at the knees and his cap hung low over kind, tired eyes. Karen didn't greet him. She looked up and immediately wrinkled her nose. She tapped her pen impatiently. Sir, do you have any experience with sanitation? Lucas sat down carefully, folding his hands. Yes, ma'am, I helped run a shelter for veterans in Phoenix. Cleaned the dorms, cooked meals, organized the meds, helped with daily care. His voice was low and respectful, not rehearsed, just honest. Karen didn't look impressed. She interrupted with a slight wave of her hand. This position requires a certain standard. We're a professional facility, and, respectfully, you don't present yourself well. Lucas blinked, a flicker of confusion, then restraint. He'd heard this tone before, countless times, but it still made his stomach twist. I understand, he said quietly, but I believe compassion matters more than a pressed shirt. Karen's lips tightened. Do you even have a working phone number? Lucas nodded. I wrote it on the form. Karen didn't bother to check. Instead, she waved her hand dismissively, like shooing away a mosquito. We're really looking for someone younger, with better hygiene. Thank you for coming. Lucas stayed still for a second, then stood, slow and quiet. His hands brushed his jeans as if trying to wipe away the moment. His eyes were still kind, still calm, but the hurt, unmistakable. As he reached for the door, his shoulders slightly hunched, dignity barely intact, someone called out behind him. Wait, Mr. Rivera? A woman's voice, sharp, surprised, respectful. Everyone turned. Lucas froze. Karen blinked, confused. What? The woman stepped into view, a nurse in soft blue scrubs with a Harmony Haven badge. She had a coffee in one hand and her purse in the other, clearly just clocking in. She squinted, then her eyes went wide. Are you Lucas Rivera? Her tone was filled with awe, the kind of voice reserved for heroes or legends. Karen frowned. Who? The nurse stepped forward quickly, her breath catching in her throat. I remember you. You spoke at the summit last year. You told us about your mother, how you built Harmony Haven from nothing. You founded this place. Karen's jaw dropped. If you're as shocked as Karen is right now, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around to see what happens next. This reveal is just the beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss the explosive twists that follow. Her clipboard slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a loud smack. Lucas turned slowly, lifting his cap from his head. The fluorescent lights caught the streaks of silver in his hair. He gave the nurse a nod. Yes, I did. And then he looked straight at Karen, his voice calm. Guess the interview's over. Silence. The tension in the room felt heavy, like it was pressing down on every single person, suffocating any words that dared to escape. For a long moment, no one moved. Even Karen, who had been so quick to dismiss Lucas, was now paralyzed by the weight of his presence. Lucas stood still, his eyes calm, but they were far from empty. He was looking at all of them. Karen, Travis, the receptionist, the nurse who had just clocked in. They were all caught in the storm that was Lucas Rivera. Finally, he spoke. His voice steady, yet the undercurrent of pain couldn't be denied. "I built Harmony Haven to serve people with dignity." His words rang out, each one an echo of the years he'd spent working, fighting, and building from the ground up. The weight of those years was apparent in his voice, raw, unfiltered. "I came here today to see if that vision still lived, or if it died somewhere between the espresso machines and the glass conference tables." Karen opened her mouth as if to speak, but the words caught in her throat. She hadn't prepared for this, for him, for the reckoning that was now coming her way. Her voice shook as she stammered out, "Mr. Rivera, I didn't recognize." Lucas's gaze cut through her like a sharp knife, piercing her shallow excuse. "You didn't try to." There it was, the truth, and it stung. For a long moment, Lucas didn't move. He didn't need to. His presence alone commanded the room. His words hung in the air, lingering like smoke in a closed room. And then slowly, Lucas turned toward the others. His eyes swept over them, looking from Karen to Travis to the others sitting in the room. Some unsure of where to look, others too afraid to meet his gaze. He spoke again, but this time, his voice carried the weight of his own past. The pain, the struggle, the sacrifice. "I grew up with nothing. My mother scrubbed motel toilets for 12 hours a day. She worked herself into the ground just to keep food on our table. And you know what? She died without ever being seen, without ever being treated like she mattered." There was a slight pause and Lucas's jaw clenched, the memories clearly playing in his mind. But his voice didn't falter. He pushed forward, a man with nothing left to lose. "The way you treated me today?" He turned to look directly at Karen, and the coldness in his gaze felt like an accusation. "That's the same way people treated her. Dismissed, judged, mocked, all because of how she looked, or because she wasn't wearing a suit or carrying a designer bag. You didn't even see her. You didn't even try." His voice cracked just for a moment, the smallest break. But it was enough. Enough to show that even a man like Lucas, who had built an empire, still carried the scars of his past. Those wounds would never fully heal. He swallowed hard, but his words weren't done. He took a step forward, his shoulders square, his expression still filled with that quiet, burning determination. This company was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be built not just to care for our elders, but to give people like my mother a chance to matter, to have a voice, to have dignity. Lucas's gaze softened, but just for a second. He looked at Megan, her eyes wide, her hands shaking as she clutched her coat tightly around her body. And today, the only person who acted with true compassion, the only one who didn't look me up and down, didn't judge me, didn't dismiss me like I was a nobody, was her. Megan's eyes welled with tears and she quickly wiped them away, not wanting to appear weak in front of the others. But the emotion was too much to hold in. She had spent years feeling like an invisible person. Her struggles, her sacrifices for her family, they had been ignored by people who didn't care enough to see beyond the surface. Lucas's eyes softened as he continued. "Megan, you are the only one here who saw me, who saw beyond the flannel, beyond the rough hands, beyond the years of hard work etched into my face. You treated me with the kindness and respect that everyone deserves." Megan couldn't hold back anymore. The tears spilled over as she nodded, almost in disbelief. "Thank you, Mr. Rivera. I just wanted to make a difference." Lucas took a deep breath. He wasn't finished yet, not by a long shot. "And for everyone else in this room," he said, his tone changing, colder, final. "I came here today to make sure Harmony Haven still stood for what it was meant to stand for. But now I know." He glanced over each person's face one by one. "We've lost our way." He looked directly at Karen again. "You're suspended until further review. You've lost sight of what matters." Karen opened her mouth to argue, but Lucas raised his hand, silencing her. "Travis," he began, turning to the arrogant young man who still hadn't grasped the gravity of the moment. "You've shown exactly what this company doesn't need. You don't see the value of care. You see it as easy money." He shook his head. This company doesn't need your kind of attitude. Travis's face flushed red. He opened his mouth to speak, but Lucas cut him off. Good luck somewhere else. It's not here. As Travis stood, eyes wide with disbelief, Lucas turned to the rest of the room. Harmony Haven will no longer be a place where people are judged based on their looks, their clothes, their age, or anything else. Starting today, we're launching a new initiative. From the heart. We will train people who have true compassion, who believe in caring for others. It doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. It's all about what's in here. He pointed to his heart. Megan stood too, this time with confidence. Her tears had dried, replaced with a fierce sense of hope. Megan, Lucas said, his voice full of warmth, I'm offering you a full-time job, not just as a janitor, but as a care assistant trainee. Full benefits, full mentorship. You deserve more than just a chance. You deserve the opportunity to grow. Megan couldn't believe it. She didn't know what to say. Finally, after a long pause, Lucas looked at the group. Now let's get to work. It's time to start over, to rebuild what we were meant to be. The room was still, but it wasn't silent anymore. It was a silence of change.